Star Wars only, I don't know what the fuck your problem is.
It seems like no matter what happens in Episode 9, Rise of Skywalker, Mark Hamill is still upset about not having the original trilogy cast reunite. He posted this picture, and it was made by a fan, and I posted this on Twitter, and I posted this on Instagram myself, and it's funny because Mark Hamill actually uses kind of the same words that I used. I put on Instagram, do you think this was a missed opportunity? And he put the same picture up that this fan art guy made, where and it says Star Wars, what should have been, and Mark Hamill doesn't even put out, really much to say. He just says hashtag missed opportunities. Mark Hamill, at this point, could not give less of a fuck, and I love that. I honestly love it. And I like what he said last time we talked about how he was kind of defending the fans and everything for saying, all the stuff that they've kind of missed on in terms of opportunities, like he says in this tweet, not having the original trilogy cast reunite, not letting Luke see Han before he ultimately passed away in The Force Awakens or, was killed by his son. There's a lot of disappointing things for Star Wars fans that we have from the sequels so far, and that's not to say that they're awful movies, but my argument was, because there's a lot of people who are making fun of this tweet, not this tweet, but this picture. A lot of people are making fun of this picture, making fun of fans for wanting this. They're saying things like, that's just a nostalgia fest and we don't need to see that stuff. My argument is, though, if you're going to rely so heavily on the original trilogy characters like the sequel trilogy has, The Force Awakens, let's be honest, is a rehash of A New Hope, and I liked the film. I thought The Force Awakens was good. But even J.J. Abrams said, in response to that criticism, that he acknowledges that and that he's doing something different for Episode 9. And then you have The Last Jedi, which relies so heavily on Luke Skywalker, and a lot of people, myself included, feel like that was a spit in the face of the character of Luke Skywalker, and we can get into a conversation about that on another day. But even Mark Hamill himself was disappointed with that character, and disappointed with not having the original trilogy cast reunite Han, Luke, Leia, Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, Harrison Ford, all working together in the same scene, and now you have Billy D. Williams reprising his role as Lando Calrissian, and that's, of course, where they're getting this image from with him in the pilot seat with the Han, and then Leia in the background, and then Luke. It's kind of odd and curious for a lot of fans looking at Episode 6. At the end of Return of the Jedi, that felt like the conclusion to the Skywalker saga right there. All our heroes are there, happy, reunited, and it seems like the world's just kind of at peace. That's supposed to be the fairy tale happy ending you had to the Star Wars saga. The fact that 30 years later everything went to shit and now most of them are dead, it is kind of sad to think, well, all right, well, we don't have our fairy tale happy ending with our favorite characters of all time. Luke Skywalker is my favorite character of all time, personally. I grew up loving this character. I grew up loving the original trilogy. I was born in 99, but I watched the original trilogy on VHS all the time. These are the characters I love and enjoy. So imagine, and I argued this on Twitter, imagine seeing Star Wars in 1977, and then 40 years later, you come back and you get to see all your characters from your childhood reunite. That's something that I would call magical. I think that's a great magical experience for anyone who had a childhood in the 70s and 80s and got to grow up the original trilogy. This is a missed opportunity for them, something that they're never going to see, and that really does suck, because we all know damn well that maybe in 20, 30, 40 years, Kathleen Kennedy's even talked about this recently, about how they kind of want to do some more films for the characters we have in the sequel trilogy now. They're going to reunite with some people in 20, 30, 40 years in a different Star Wars film. We just know that's how it's going to be. But we're not going to get that with this original trilogy cast anymore. And that's really disappointing for a lot of fans, and for me including. And so I think this is something that Mark Hamill really hits the nail on the head about just saying it's a missed opportunity. He's been very vocal about his disappointment with the sequel trilogy. In the end, I think Episode 9 really does need to kind of reunite the fandom and do what JJ has said it needs to do. It needs to stand alone on its, by itself. It needs to be a film that you can watch by itself. But it also needs to tie in all the other 8 films and just kind of wrap it up. And it does seem like The Last Jedi is kind of a hurdle for JJ to get to the story that he wanted to do. So it'd be interesting to see what he faces with this adversity, because I think Star Wars, when creating it, really thrives on having roadblocks, on having things that kind of make it a struggle to make. You look at the original trilogy, it was nothing but complications with the first 2 films. Episode 4 and 5 is what we now know it. And Episode 6 didn't really have a lot of complications, and that's one of the ones that people don't think is as good as the other 2 originals. So you have this case now where JJ's coming in, and he's kind of having to get over that hurdle of The Last Jedi. And I really wonder if he can pull it off. And he has this hurdle of a lot of expectations from the fans and disappointment from the fans already. It's not good PR for Lucasfilm or Disney to have one of your main actors in Episode 9 coming out and talking shit about the past 2 films. Really, that's what this is. bottom left picture says what should have been. I mean, that's not something you really want out there. So the fact that Mark Hamill's doing it, I mean, honestly, he could not give less of a fuck, and I love that. So tell me your thoughts below, though. What do you guys think about all this? I think this is great. I love it. It's entertainment at its finest, and I can't get enough of it. And I love talking about it. So tell me your thoughts below. Is Mark Hamill right to put this tweet out? Is he not? Do you think this is going to get him in trouble? Do you think he even cares if it does or does not? And what do you think this means for Episode 9? Do you think that means Mark Hamill's not satisfied with what happens in Episode 9? Or do you think he's just harping on Rian Johnson in The Last Jedi and what happened in The Force Awakens again? I mean, it really just seems like he has a bone to pick with Lucasfilm right now, and it's fun to watch.